Nigel Farage is now banned from the Conservative Party, or at least for the duration of whoever the next leader of the Conservative Party is, because we've had all 6 of the candidates in the Tory leadership race say that they will not allow Farage into the party. Now, this comes after we had Rishi Sunak say last year that the Conservative Party is a broad church and they would happily welcome Farage should he decide to join. But now the tables have turned against Farage and they don't want him anywhere near the Conservative Party. Now, why has this come now? Because it looks like in the rhetoric of some of the leadership candidates that this is just about the fact that Nigel Farage has said that it's his mission to destroy the Conservative Party. I'm not sure if those were his exact words, but he doesn't want to do the Conservative Party. He doesn't want the Conservative Party to do well. Let's put it that way. He wants them to face the consequences of 14 years in power and doing absolutely nothing. And they're saying that those are the grounds mostly for him being banned from the Conservative Party. But I think that they have come at this time for a reason, because of the huge blame that he has received for the riots that have taken place. Everyone has been pointing fingers at Nigel Farage for fueling the riots that have happened up and down this country after he got the identity wrong of the Southport stabber. Now, if you ask me, I mean, this is absolutely absurd. Sure, Nigel got it wrong and he made a mistake. And maybe he should have waited a bit longer to wait until the facts were verified for people before posting that tweet. I mean, I think I can understand why he made the mistake, because like many people, we were just desperate to find out who did this, and the police were not releasing the identity of the person who did this. So there was a lot of speculation, and you can understand why he wanted to get answers out to people as quickly as possible. But he made a mistake. Is it the case that the riots that we have seen around the country would not have taken place if Nigel Farage just didn't put one tweet out? No, ladies and gentlemen. These riots have been coming for a long, long time. It could have been the Southport event that sparked it. It could have been something else. It could have been that stabbing, very sad stabbing of an 11-year-old girl that we saw in Leicester Square. It could be whatever the next event is that sparks people's anger. It could have been at any point. I don't think that riots would have been prevented in this country, whether they be sooner or later, just if Nigel Farage hadn't put out a tweet. It's just absolutely ridiculous, the blame that he is getting. Now, have a look at some of the headlines about this. This is why people are so angry at Farage for tweeting, because you've got the mainstream media talking about him like this. So Guardian, Farage, irresponsible and dangerous during riots, says Tory leadership contender. Independent, Nigel Farage could be investigated by police over riots, social media posts, ex-terror boss suggests. Tory leadership hopeful Tugendhat attacks reckless rhetoric of Farage over UK riots. Nigel Farage was dangerous during UK riots. That's another quote from Ton Tugendhat. And then we've got GB News. Nigel Farage's Southport comments put riot police in danger, says Tory hopeful Mel Stride. So the Tory candidates, the Tory leadership candidates are just absolutely desperate to point the finger at Nigel Farage. But why are they so desperate to do that? Well, I'll tell you why. You can tell me in the comments if you agree with this thesis. But I think it is because the Tories do not want to take any responsibility for the riots that have taken place. If you ask me, they bear a huge, huge proportion of the responsibility for these riots. The main reason why we have these riots is we've got a population of Brits who feel like they haven't been listened to when they have voted time and time again for lower immigration, both legal and illegal. They've been crying for help when they've seen communities struggle with a lack of integration of different cultures, and in some communities with absolutely horrendous consequences. You've got people who are desperate to buy a home, desperate for a doctor's appointment, desperate for a school place for their child, and they just can't get it, and they've seen the effects of mass immigration, and they feel like nobody is listening to them because the Tories didn't do anything about it. All they did was make false promises, but then allow the immigration numbers, both legal and illegal, to go up and up and up and up, and people have had enough of it. The Tories are really the ones to blame here, and they don't want to take any responsibility. They're just going to point their finger at Nigel Farage and say that it was all Nigel's fault. And so they feel the need to all ban him from the Conservative Party and come out and condemn him and make a statement, say that he's an evil man. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we saw Suella Braverman pull out of the Tory leadership race, saying that the Tory party would not listen to her diagnosis as to why the Conservative Party failed so badly in the election. Suella Braverman was actually frank and honest and said, you know what, the Conservative Party has massively messed up. They have not listened to the people on immigration. And the people in the Tory party clearly just did not want to listen. They did not want to hear it. They still are in denial. They just will not be humble enough to accept that they messed up. It is their fault. They could have sorted out immigration. They did not bother to sort it out. And now Britain is facing the consequences. I think that it would, at least from my perspective, make a leadership candidate more attractive if they put their hands up and said, no, this isn't Nigel Farage, this is because us, the Tory party, messed up, but we can recognise our mistakes, we can learn from them, and we can make sure that we've got a really strong plan to reduce immigration in the future if at the next general election we were able to get back in power. But no, we're not hearing that from them at all. I think it's really disappointing, and I think all it's going to do is bolster support for reform. And I think that reform supporters are going to look at the way that the Tories have tried to scapegoat Nigel Farage rather than take some responsibility themselves, and they're going to be unimpressed. And I think it's going to send more people over to reform. It just shows that they have not changed at all and they haven't learned any lessons. Now, what has Farage had to say in response to this? So Farage doesn't care. GB News, he said to GB News that it is of no interest to me whatsoever to be part of the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party, although I don't think it's in Farage's interest, I don't think it's in Reform's interest to buddy up with the Tories. You would have thought that the Tories would try and keep them as friends so that they could potentially do some sort of deal with them in the future. Again, I think that would only really be in the Conservatives' interest, not really in Reform's interest, but you'd think that the Tory party would want to keep a little bit cosy with them, but no. It's all shouty and finger wagging as a consequence of the riots. Great shame to see that the Tory party does not look like it is on any upward trajectory at the moment, I'm afraid. And we don't see Rishi Sunak standing up and taking a stand against Tuti Akia either, being a good leader of the opposition. I know it's holiday time, but he at least could be a little bit more active online, doing something about it to try and hold Keir Starmer to account, but he's just enjoying his holidays in California and doesn't give a toss. So there we are. I'm Chloe Dobbs. This has been another video for Reasoned. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and press the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. I will see you soon.